Hello, in this video we are going to stare very long at one image and I'm going to explain what we are going to see at the World Championships. In my server we host Open Great League practice tournaments and this is data from 1 week, 23 tournaments, 820 total teams, and while it might not be the exact meta we're going to see at Worlds, it does give a very good indication on which will be the more popular Pokemon. Just for the record, new Shadow Pokemon like Giratina and Talonflame, they're not allowed yet in this meta, so we're not going to see those. For competitors, Worlds is an absolute disaster to build a team for. Usually in a Pokemon Go season of 3 months, you have like multiple regionals to look at for data and everything. Now, between NAIC, the last tournament in the Delightful Days meta, and Worlds, there's 2 months of nothing. So these Open Great League practice tournament metas and data, that's the only thing that we have to go from. I think that the team from its accent that won NAIC is still very good, but in the meantime, a lot has changed. The most popular core in the Open Great League right now is Cradily plus Dusclops. They core very well together. Dusclops covers the fighting type weakness of Cradily, while Cradily covers the Galarian Moltres weakness from Dusclops. Cradily's run with either Bullet Seed and Acid. I've faced both when I played practice tournaments myself. I don't know exactly where Bullet Seed comes from, but it does cover Pokemon like Quagsire and Lapras just slightly better and also has better fast attack pressure into other ground type Pokemon. A matchup that does become worse because as it is better fast attack pressure is Shadow Drapion. And I think Shadow Drapion is so popular because it is one of the very few Pokemon that has good play into both Cradily and Dusclops. Tinkaton has been something that's been rising pretty recently, so it hasn't been around at like NAIC at all. But it has play into all three of those, and is one of the few Pokemon that can soak the energy from Shadow Drapion a little bit more comfortable and also take the fast attacks quite well. That's why we see more and more Tinkaton. Tinkaton and Drapion are weak to ground, so naturally we see ground types increasing. Shadow Marowak has been great ever since its release. The most popular ground type before was Diggersby, and I think it might still be in the top 12 at Worlds. Here it was not, because sitting at a 16% usage in these practice tournaments. I think that Diggersby is just less punishing into Shadow Drapion, and also loses harder to the most common core, Dusclops and Cradily. Shadow Marowak just brute forces through some of these matchups. And if you look at the meta, there's hardly any ground type resist. The flying types have been decreasing in usage, such as Mandibuzz and Galarian Moltres, and at least Talonflame you can actually one-shot with a Rock Slide. So Shadow Marowak, even in its worst matchups, just performs a little bit better. As crazy as it sounds, with almost only ground type damage output, Shadow Marowak might just be one of the more flexible Pokemon at the moment. Okay, now the lower row. Lapras and Shadow Quagsire, the water-type Pokemon of this meta. In the previous meta, we saw multiple water-type Pokemon on one team, from 2 to 3, even 4 sometimes. That's none of that this time. Usually it's only one water, and if two, then it's most of the time these two. Lapras and Quagsire, two very safe Pokemon. Lapras just relies on bulk, outputs the charge stacks really quickly, and I've seen them with both Ice Beam and Skull Bash. Ice Beam covers Cradily a little bit better, Skull Bash does the mirror a little bit better, and even without Skull Bash, you're not that bad into Cradily as it always needs 2 charge stacks. Quagsire is even safer, especially when Cradily doesn't even have Bullet Seed because Acid is resisted. It's not like you're going to be great in that match, but let's say Cradily goes straight Grass Knot and you shoot everything with 2 shields, you actually make that match really close. And if you call a Rock Tomb bait, you can actually win that matchup even. Quagsire, if you look at this entire top 10, has play into about everything. Talonflame. Before I say what I'm going to say, I am Talonflame's #1 fan. But I think in this meta, it is so RPS because you are forcing decisions upon your opponents, and it's sometimes hardly even playable because your opponent might have a Cradily, Lapras, Quagsire, and the Dene. Even Drapion is not that great. Shadow Marowak is Rock Slide. Talonflame is usually a great sweeper with like a shield up. I'm not sure if it is going to be in this meta, but you do make sure that Tinkaton and Shadow Scissor not on here, but at a 22% usage, are checked very well, that they cannot just be swapped in freely. Especially Scissor can be very oppressive at times. So Talonflame I'm not exactly impressed with, and neither am I with the Dene, but the Dene, if it's in a good matchup, it can just keep ramping up. The problem that I find about the Dene is that it kind of forces your opponent to bring those hard answers, and I don't like it when you are forcing people, which is ironic because those are exactly my teams. But that is kind of the issue what a lot of players face right now. You cannot play a team consisting of like Sableye, Primeape, Talonflame, name another fly or water type. You cannot pair those together because of the Dedenne. It is such a big core breaker with that electric and fairy typing plus parabolic charge to back up its to make its good matchup even better. The final Pokemon on this graphic is Mandibuzz, and I'm just gonna be honest with you, I think Mandibuzz is a pretty bad Pokemon. It is usually run with Air Slash currently for a better Drapion and fighting type matchup, but with Air Slash you can actually lose some scenarios to Dusclops, and obviously Ticketon is rising right now, so it's not even, it's just kind of bad. And the Dedenne checks you so, you can not come back from a Dedenne matchup. Galarian Moltres was sitting at a 13% usage here. I actually like Galarian Moltres a little bit better, even though it's slow, very slow to its Charge Attack, Fly, and Brave Bird that's usually ran here. Another Pokemon that's very interesting to know about is Galarian Corsola. It has been increasing in usage. I like it a lot right now, just because it's bulky, Astonish is very degen, and Diggersby has been decreasing in usage. That is the one Pokemon that hard checks Galarian Corsola like nothing else. So that Pokemon gonna be really interesting to see too. Fortress might be a Pokemon to look out for. I've not seen a lot of Araquanid, even though it did win NAIC on any of the practice tournaments. So that Pokemon might be a little bit extinct, except if players are kind of following its Access example from NAIC. And then the very last call out about this meta, I think, is also fighting type Pokemon. They're not on this graphic. They're not as common anymore. Annihilate was popular for a little bit, but I think everyone can see that Dusclops does not go anywhere. So Annihilate is always going to be tough to play, in my opinion, even though it does have some decent matchups in some teams as well. I think Primeape offers some more flexibility, has some better win conditions into Dusclops as well, and I would not be surprised if one of those fighters or both even will make it far at Worlds. I also made two graphics of the winning teams of each tournament, but I'm not going in depth on these. These are kind of snapshots of every tournament, and honestly, every tournament is almost like a micro meta. Cradily and Dusclops are nearly always at the top, but then there's like Talonflame at third, Tinkaton at third, there's even Galarian Moltres once at third. It's just moving all over the place. If you do want to see that though, you'll have a better quality version of it on my X profile if you want to see that. If you want to join the Open Great League practice tournaments, I'll drop the link in the description to my Discord server. And also make sure to check out the actual World Championships. It starts on Friday, I believe around 9 or 8:30 a.m. Pacific time. And that will also be the case on Saturday and Sunday. There will be Championships Sunday. I will drop the link in the description to the channels on Twitch. And this time I won't be competing, I will be commentating, and I'm super much looking forward to that. Hope you liked the video and see you in the next one. Bye bye.